whether the team is performing clean or unsightly. We'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, you're probably still on the high of Week 1's win on Sunday over the Philadelphia Eagles, as am I. However, we will turn our attention and begin the process of looking at the Arizona Cardinals. I'm currently breaking down the film from Week 1 on Patreon. So remember, if you're not a patron, what are you waiting on? Become a patron so you don't miss a thing. I had a chance to really dive in deep to the first half defensive film. I'll finish the rest of the defensive film. The all 22s don't come out on the NFL website until Wednesday. So that's when I'll take a look at the offense. Want to really see what Dwayne Haskins was looking at down the field. And you only really get a good picture of that on the all 22. So expect all of the film to be done and up for you on Patreon by Wednesday. But all the defensive film should be up at some point on Tuesday night. The first half film is already there for your viewing pleasure, and some really interesting tidbits come out of that film. You really get to see a lot of things in there watching that over again. So when you talk about Week 1, I think the biggest takeaway right now, the thing that you're probably most happy about, we've seen all the teams because every single team in the division played either on primetime television. Eagles played against us. So if you're a Washington football fan, you got to watch the Eagles up close and personal. The Cowboys were on Sunday Night Football. So if you watched that game, it was available to you. You got to watch the Cowboys up close and personal. And then the Giants were on Monday Night Football. So if you were interested, it was there for consumption. You had a chance to essentially watch every team in the division this weekend and kind of assess what you think. First blush, obviously, a lot of football left to be played for all of these teams, but you get a chance to kind of assess what you think these teams are going to be like this season. Where do you think we stack up in the mix, and how do you think this season is going to unfold? One thing's for sure, after 1 week of football, you look up at the standings, and alone at the top, who would have guessed? The Washington football team. Feels really good to say that. Feels good, but don't know how long that's going to last. So I'm going to bask in the glow of being atop the division, even if only for 1 week, okay? But nonetheless, I'm going to enjoy this. We're 1-0. Everyone else is 0-1. Feels damn good to be able to get on the board in the left-hand column before everyone else. And all of that pressure that you normally feel about not getting it done in Week 1 and then really feeling the pressure of needing to get it done Week 2. We know that all too often as Washington football fans because we don't win in Week 1 all that often. It makes the Week 2 matchup that much more stressful when you know if we lose this game, we're now 0-2. And I always talk about, I just want to be competitive. I just want to be playing meaningful games in November into December. The easiest way not to do that is to start off the season 0-2 and start trending in the wrong direction. Because if you go 1-3 over in September, October is going to become really important and almost to the point where you're out of it, similar to last year. By the time we got to October, felt like the season was damn near over. So we want to put ourselves in a position where we're going to be in ball games, having a chance to win, and playing competitive football for the entire season. We don't want guys checking out. We don't want teams to overlook us. And so getting off to that 1-0 start in the fashion that we did, I think takes a huge step in that direction. And now we're not struggling for a Week 2 win. We want it, but if it doesn't come, we're going to be fine. We're not 0-2, we're 1-1. But we'll discuss all of that. It's a very winnable game, I will say. After watching Arizona, while Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins are ultra impressive, I wasn't blown away by the Arizona Cardinals. They're a winnable, a gettable team. That's a winnable game. We'll see what happens. We'll talk about that more later on in the week. Anyhow, let's get to in other news because something kind of shook free today. And look, it's all speculation. It's all hearsay. And this is what wide receiver Allen Robinson is supposed to do. when you want a new contract, we heard Zach Ertz talk about how doesn't know if the Eagles are reciprocating his want to stay in Philadelphia. And so he's not sure if he's going to be an Eagle past this season and doesn't know if they want him in Philadelphia long term. It's all a part of posturing when you're looking to get a new deal. You say some things, you wipe your social media clean of all of your team's paraphernalia, and you take a hardline stance. I remember Von Miller was trying to get his contract done, and he was like, well, I might not play football anymore. I might retire. Guys say anything when they're trying to get paid. But Allen Robinson has requested a trade. Reportedly, I haven't heard anything from his camp necessarily confirming that, but reports are he's frustrated with the way contract negotiations are going in Chicago on a new extension. You're seeing some of his teammates, most notably Tariq Cohen, hashtagging, I think it was the hashtag was re-sign or let me see, extend AR. That was the hashtag, extend AR, which is Allen Robinson. And so, this is a guy that I talked about on the podcast probably 2 weeks ago when we had the discussion about top 10, top 7 wide receivers in the league, because we were having a discussion about the Chargers wide receiver, Keenan Allen, and his frustration with the top 100 list and where he fell in terms of the wide receivers. And I talked about how I put Allen Robinson ahead of him in terms of a guy that I would take on my football team. I think Keenan Allen is a fantastic wide receiver, but Allen Robinson is right there, and that's an argument to be had. I'm not definitively saying that Allen Robinson is better than Keenan Allen, but the fact that we're even having that discussion means that this guy is a top 10 receiver in this league to me. And so Allen Robinson is a guy that if he's available, and I don't know if he even is, because to me, if you take him off of that Chicago Bears team, I talk about this. I talked about it last night with the Giants. I talk about this all the time, which is why it is important. It is imperative that Terry McLaurin establish that he is a number 1 wide receiver in this league, because if you don't have a number 1 wide receiver, your entire wide receiving core is out of whack. Because then your number 2 is posing as a number 1. Your number 3 is posing as a number 2. You get where I'm going with this. Everyone is stepping up a notch, and they don't belong in that realm, in that stratosphere. You don't want your number 2 wide receiver being guarded by Stephon Gilmore. He's going to blanket him, and he will not have an impact on the game. At least if Stephon Gilmore is checking your number 1, your number 2 will still have an opportunity to eat. That's why it is imperative that you have a number 1 wide receiver. And if you take Allen Robinson off of that Bears roster, they no longer have a number 1 wide receiver, and their season goes to hell in the handbasket. So I don't anticipate the Bears making a move 1 week into the season. Oh, by the way, they won in week number 1. I surmise he's going to at least remain a Bear all season long. And if something doesn't get done, maybe they try to trade him in the offseason. But that's nor here nor there. And as a matter of fact, I take that back. They might try to trade him at the trade deadline, especially if the Bears aren't where they want to be in the season. Because if I'm not mistaken, he signed a 3-year deal in Chicago. Well, this is the 3rd year of that 3-year deal. Remember, we wanted Allen Robinson. He was coming off of a knee injury, a torn ACL. And that's what made his market a little bit lower than what it would have been had he been healthy. I still wanted him. I remember Chris Cooley saying, this is the guy you need to go and get. I've always been an Allen Robinson fan. I remember killing Allen Robinson for a lackluster combine. All right, he cleaned it up at his pro day. And, I didn't know what to expect. I loved his tape, but, I thought he was a guy that couldn't run. He got in the league, and he's just been a stellar wide receiver. And he's been shining, playing alongside the likes of Blake Bortles and Blaine Gabbert. I think he might have had a little bit of Blaine. I don't think he got any Blaine in Jacksonville. But Blake Bortles and Mitchell Trubisky, enough said, okay? Even sprinkle in a little bit of, what's the guy's name that's been a career backup? Oh, my God, from Missouri. Oh, Chase Daniel, okay? This guy is going over 1,000 yards every year with Chase Daniel, Mitchell Trubisky, and guys like Blake Bortles throwing him the football. So I think this guy's a extreme talent, and I would love to add him to the mix. So I said all of that to say this. If, in fact, Allen Robinson, and this is a hypothetical here, if, in fact, Allen Robinson is available, would you be interested? And more importantly, what would you be willing to give up? This guy is a Pro Bowl wide receiver. You don't just give those guys away if you're Chicago. And I've always made it known that if you're not willing to give me what I'm asking for, I'll just hold on to him. He's worth more to me than he is just to give him away. And if you're the Bears, you can look at it one of two ways. Either he leaves in free agency and you get a compensatory pick. And I think they still get a compensatory pick, but I know there's this rule now in the CBA that if a guy's been with your football team or been in the league X amount of years or more, you're only able to get a compensatory pick that is equal to or less than like a fifth round pick, a fourth or fifth round pick. I don't quite recall that rule, but I don't know what the compensation would be if he were to leave in free agency. I just know this. You can either get something for him if you're not planning to re-sign him, or you could not get something for him. And so I don't think the Bears are in any position to strong arm someone into giving up, a first or a second, potentially, maybe a second. You might be able to get a second for Allen Robinson. I wouldn't be interested giving up a second round pick. I'd like to keep my second round pick. Thank you very much. However, if you recall, we traded Trent Williams to the San Francisco 49ers, and a part of that deal was a third round pick in 2021. So that means the Washington football team has not one, but 2 third round selections in the 2021 NFL draft. I'd be willing to part ways with both of them for Allen Robinson. Okay, you're not going to find a player in the draft, more likely than not. Now, we got Terry McLaurin, so you could say, hey, we found Terry, but he's an aberration. Don't assume that you'll just find a Terry McLaurin in the third round every time you're looking to draft a wide receiver. For every one of those, there's the Devin Thomases, Malcolm Kellys, and Fred Davises of the world, okay? And those were all second round picks by this football team. So don't assume that you're just going to strike gold again with a third round pick. I would be willing to part ways. He's only 27 years old, okay? So he's still got a lot of good football left in him, and he could be playing at an elite level for at least the next 3, possibly 4 years. If he's healthy, he's as good as you're going to find in this league. I think he's a top 7, definitely top 10, possibly top 7. I might be a little bit overzealous there. He's probably more in that 7 to 10 range, but that's nor here nor there. At the end of the day, this guy is a top flight wide receiver, and if he's available for anything less than a second round pick, so meaning a third or something further back, I'm all in. What do I need to do? If it takes 2/3, I'm all in. If it takes a third and another third the following year, I'm all in. But I don't know what it would take. But if you're asking for a first or a second in any draft, I'm good. I'm going to pass on that. But if it takes a third rounder or multiple third rounders, I'm all in. Where do I sign up? And you still got to sign him to a deal, and he's looking for big time money. We got the cap space necessary to get it done. So I think that it'd be negligent on our part, especially after watching what we watched this past weekend. It'd be negligent on our part to not at least pick up the phone and see if the Bears are even interested. If they're not, no harm done, no harm, no foul. You keep it pushing. We move on with the guys that we have. But if they're listening, you see what it takes. And if that kind of fits what we're trying to do, remember, this team was willing to pay Amari Cooper $100 million last year. So they're definitely in the market for a big-time young wide receiver. Allen Robinson fits that description. He's not Amari Cooper, but I like him better than Amari Cooper. I'm just going to be honest with you. But Amari Cooper is a damn good wide receiver. Don't get it twisted. But I think this guy's worthy of being paid. And so I don't know what the asking price is. I don't know why he's frustrated with contract negotiations with the Bears. Obviously, they're probably trying to lowball him. But I don't know if he's asking for some astronomical amount. And the Bears are like, are you crazy? We're not paying you that kind of money. So we don't know what the situation is. But if he's asking for a reasonable amount of money and the compensation isn't that great, would you be interested in Allen Robinson, and what would you be willing to part ways with to get him? Okay, so that's essentially all the news that we have today. Slow news day for this football team as they're getting ready to prepare for the Arizona Cardinals. Tomorrow is when they have their first day of practice. We'll get an injury report. We'll start to look forward to them. We'll get some guys stepping up to the podium. We'll have a lot more to discuss tomorrow. And so I'm looking forward to sinking my teeth into the upcoming week of action. And it all really starts on Wednesday. So looking forward to having a jam-packed show tomorrow. Remember, we'll be live tomorrow night here on the Washington Football Nightly program. So make sure you tune in 8:30 for Washington Football Nightly live, and we'll chop it up and talk about this football team and take our very first look at the Arizona Cardinals matchup in week number 2 of the National Football League. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not, I repeat, not the best NFL coverage it could be. Until next time, you guys stay safe, take care, and we'll talk about the burgundy and gold the next time we reconvene. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone.